All right, how's it going in the builder? And I'd like to talk about this topic as it's very popular as the more and more demand of people are buying houses back in the days. Now things has changed, and I'll put a couple of links down below which back up my talk on this video. Okay, first things first, I only talk about Australia. I don't anything part of any other countries because I'm from Australia. And second of all, let's begin off this topic. Now, you know, me and my I'll say co-workers, we always discuss about this. Why is everyone urged, obsessed, and jump into the market? Like, what triggered it? Is it because we live in Australia and everyone's chasing Australia dream? Or perhaps this is the maybe it's the early to time that they can get into the housing market. Now let's understand what's Australia currently in. I'm not speaking on what happened this year and last year. I'm happening when we had the property boom in Australia. Okay, so but also I would like to talk about why it is what actually triggered them. Okay, I think the far most important thing is that for renter seekers or renters or family or newly family, they're sick and tired of moving to different houses or being outbid by another um, rent seeker. Okay, because they jacked up more higher prices. Third of all, the media and the social and your and the peer pressure that everyone's just jumping on the market, stating that if you have $20,000 in the account, this house is yours, or $10,000 account, this is yours, or you have 5% of the deposit, this house is yours. There was a really tough banking regulations or look into your spending habits on your bank account, and there was a lot of forgery going on. All right, now how why would I say forgery? Like I was one of them. At the age of 21, we went for a broker and made us get to the stage, the forgery to the stage that I'm an IT engineer earning this amount of money in this sort of employer. Now the banks will approve it without a blind turn away from the blind eye, not looking at the bank statement or things like that. There have been statements, but it's been forgery. This sort of bad practice has been happened, and everyone has been encouraged and pushed through. Many people who cannot buy houses, they go through the brokers, and the brokers they do anything that's possible in their hands to make that sell. They don't care if you can afford it or not. All they care about is getting the commission. First is first. Then I guess around the world, housing market is rising. It's turned to unaffordable. Well, Australia currently at the moment is second or top five in the world that is unaffordable. It's not affordable at all. We have one of the highest, especially in Sydney and Melbourne. It's one of the highest up there. I think Melbourne's more of a ninth or 15th place, but Sydney's really high up there, and I could see that. Now, you see, you have a very low interest rate and loose lending. Why not? When they have what you should be doing if you have a property when you have a low interest rate is to pay up, pay the most as you can for the principal. You're not there to keep on buying more property. However, we had the trend that property prices keep rising day after day. Fear of foreign investors snatch all the houses. We drive up the locals 50% and 50% the Chinese or foreign investors snatching the houses. It's too late if you don't jump in the market. That was the norm. Everyone was going to auction clearance and it's always been sold in 99%. Today in Australia is well below 65% per month. Houses are over $1 million. Luck. Houses under $1 million, still good. Houses under 600,000, even better. The clearance rate is a lot better if your housing is still around 600,000 mark or lower. Now, this tells you a lot. See, people still believe houses go up, the government encouraged them and keep going up. They can chase the Australia dream, refinance the money, buy their Mercedes, or buy whatever they have wanted, or have a swimming pool backyard, or build another room, whatever. And they post it on social media, and social peers were liking it and follow the same trend. Nobody wants to be a leftover sheep, the black sheep. So everyone's jumping in without acknowledging. Around the world, houses being skyrocketed. And if they're able to grab their hands and grab the hold of chasing the Australia dream, having a property or Mercedes, they are above than fulfilling their dream. They give their family a very, very successful, and other family members are jealous about it. So you have their, or we'll say friends, peers as well. You see, I spoke to my supervisor, who's newly arrived to Australia, probably 5, 7 years ago, and bought a house. Both breadwinners in the family. And when I spoke to my other coworker about recession and housing crash, she was very interested to understand, wanting to know. And I told her, Australia is one of the countries that has triple A rating. It means the interest rate. It means that they're willing to give us a large amount of debt, low interest rate, where we have a good credit returning the repayments on time. So everything what we do in the banking sector, we do on time. So we don't have a bad image. However, things has changed when there's low interest rate. People has been using very, very instant gratification and bought as many properties or things like that. Buying a property is cheaper than rent. That was the slogan. Why will you pay rent with dead money where you can buy a house? And it's under your name. And it's for life. If you paid it off. So that was the thing. They can buy a house and rent a couple of room out to someone else and grab their rent debt money and pay off their mortgage interest every single week. But what if you're a worker, a breadwinner, two breadwinners, one breadwinner gone for sick, for example, like me. I'm talking while my eyes are shut. I can't even open so wide. And I have the viral conjunctivitis. I'm out of work for 4 weeks. You're never predicting in life what sort of sickness, whether short term or long term. And you cannot predict that. That's what me and my co-workers keep saying. You can buy a house in 5%, no problem. But can you promise yourself that you can work 24/7 around the clock, 7 days a week? Obviously, I'm exaggerating, but what I'm trying to say is, can you get on working every single day without getting a flu, cold, or some other sickness? The answer is you can't answer that because that's life. When we get sick, we get sick. So you have that. When the who drive the market up will have to thank to the Chinese investors who drive the world up as well. And also with the banks in Australia were fearing where China is bringing 100% straight cash, so they don't need a bank to loan them. Or as well, they have other competitive such as you have that, and also they also can borrow money in the Australian Soil Bank. 2016, 2017, the Australian Big Four and the rest of the banks has banned lending, borrowing money to investors, foreign investors. And as well, the Chinese has banned all their citizens to cash out money per year. They capped the limit down to 20,000 US dollars. Even though right now you can still buy a house under 5,000, 5% of the deposit, but yet you need a very good salary income. Unlike before, they don't really need to care if you're doctors or a cleaner. You can buy a house if you're low income or high income or middle income. Buying a house back then, it was more of you have a large enough of savings to buy a house, or if you want to borrow money, if as your high profession or coming from a rich family. During the property boom, everyone jumped in the market because they don't care. I'm chasing the Australia dream. Houses keep going up. I got my rent. Why not? Australia will never crash. In 2016, we nearly lost the AAA rating. That's one of the links down below that I'll put in the description. Then you have to understand yourself, right? The economy has a good credit rating, to give back, to pay their mortgage on time. There's another article that I need to put the link down below, but I will. A city called Perth out west in Australia, where they have lost the mining boom, and when during the mining boom, the houses were skyrocketed. When mining boom collapsed, houses just tumbled. It was a Perth crash. The property crashed over there. In this website that I put on one of the links down below, how many of the houses has been repossessed by the banks in Perth? Yeah, stated year by year by year. Now, I'm not sure. Are they stating on the housing on the end of financial year? But the data right now currently in Perth is 900 something has been repossessed. We haven't even completed 2019, and we're already hit to that stage already. Each house has been repossessed by the banks by $1,000, 1,000 properties. Now, it may not be much to you guys, but the banks has lost so much money and couldn't get the values that they had once they had before. Now, with the incident with the Opal Towers and as well as the Mascot Towers with the dodgy building in the apartment industry has pretty much, especially in Sydney, not too much in Melbourne, or tumbled. Many buyers are fear and afraid which house is legitimate. But to be honest, as an individual who used to work with my dad and have a bit of side jobs in apartments, the apartments from the outlook they look beautiful. The moment you step in, they look rubbish, cheap materials and things like that. And so it's very flimsy. So yeah, um, this could be is another problem that will strike the whole property market down. Such as suburbs like Parramatta has wanting to build a city that could fit 1 million population in this one puny city, who is currently holding 300,000 people. The city right now has been booming, flourished with many, many skyscrapers. Ever since I moved to Melbourne, I hear a lot of stories about Liverpool. Jesus, the skyscrapers are everywhere. I'm very surprised about Canterbury. You know, this suburb was like it's not much, but damn, there was a lot of apartments when I drove past. Around the Mascot Towers, there's Waterloo. Waterloo, there's a lot of Chinese investors has bought a cheap, huge land, and those houses I walk into, they look so dodgy, and it's not to my standards of taste. I wouldn't mind renting there, but I wouldn't purchase one of the property. But Mascot Towers is literally away from the airport. Now, last couple of days ago, we have um, Australia has reduced the interest rate, the RBA. Now, the Australian banks or RBAs cannot afford to increase the interest rate. As I mentioned to you guys before, there's a lot of repossessed properties in Perth. God knows how many properties has possession in Victoria and New South Wales. I'd like to see this sort of articles to examine it, but I guess I'm a bit too lazy for that. It is important to understand that a society should run functionally, not dysfunctionally. You walk to the retails right now. We see that they're closing down or they're behind 6 months or 3 months rent. You start to answer yourself, Will, why aren't they closing down? The answer is this. If they close down, who the hell wants to go to that shopping center? Who wants to go to a shopping center that doesn't have the big multinational brands? Instead, they have to hold them in. And when you walk in the shopping centers nowadays, it's like every day is sell sign. I've never been to a shopping center all year round that's always have a sell sign. And I know the retail sector has been. Huh? ForSale.com. Okay, thanks. Sorry, man, my eyes is a bit of. I'll definitely will get to that website. Uh, there's a society should run functionally, happily. I don't use Facebook much. So that society has to function properly. Whereas retail, people has to spend money and earn money, and a very they circulate it. You cannot just have one dominated or the other. If you don't have that, then the society will crumble. Now, what happens if RBA has increased the interest rate? Well, many people jump off the building. People got entrapped in the property, saying that property is so cheap. No, sorry, I can't say property was so expensive. If the interest rate rise, the property housing market goes down. And also, huh? Okay, cool. Okay, I'll join you on Facebook. Um, if the property society have to circulate and it has to go through a way, and if it doesn't work too well, then it has to be crumbled. That's why the Australian government, the Liberal Party, has decided to give out tax relief money to every citizen who earns more than 32,000 per year. Now, those who earns more than six figures has the best of the best bonus, not this year, but the next, I think 2023. They're getting a large chunk of it. You need people to get into the money. You need people to spend money. But what I'm seeing around, nobody's spending money. And this is a huge problem. And so the people thinks that the property market is still going up, it'll be a short term. Here. I'll see you guys soon.